Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today book author Mark Weinstein. Mark wrote, Habitually Great, Master Your Habits, Your Own Destiny. Mark, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Good. Mark, what's the best way to identify one's habit mechanism?
Kurt, that's a great question. Very simple. Everybody knows it. You know, they've just never labeled it. So if you're a perfectionist, time to fess up. If you avoid accountability, that's a habit. You know, people have been saying, oh gosh, I don't trust people. Well, guess what? I don't trust has become a habit. So it's pretty easy to look in the mirror and go, okay, what habit am I really living with?
All right, now let me ask you something too, because that's interesting. There's several different fields. Can habit mechanisms, can they turn into habit change then? Meaning, is one habit bad? Can we say bad habit, Mark? Can it turn from one habit into another habit, which would, in the end, make it more difficult to get out of that chain of bad habits?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's say you've got avoid vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so with that is going to come, I don't trust. With that is going to come fear of success, because you don't want to be vulnerable to being accountable for being successful.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're in the vicious circle of what I call self-sabotage habits.
Right. All right. So people tend to put up personal firewalls, if they will. Is that the case of some of these chain habits?
You know, that's a great expression, Kurt. I've never used that. It is like a personal limiting habit firewall.
Yeah. You're more than welcome. Yeah, put that in your next book, Mark. All right, put that in your next book. All right, so we have these personal firewalls, and they could be multiple personal firewalls that actually work against ourselves. And then at the end of the day, people are scratching their heads saying, why can't I just get a break?
And they're saying, why don't I get what I want to get? Why don't I have that great relationship I keep saying I want it?
Right.
Why don't I have that great job I keep saying I want it?
Right.
Where people are looking for, who am I in this lifetime? What's my place? What's my purpose?
Right.
And habits, Kurt, get you all the way, or they get in your way.
All right, so these habits really affect us on a professional and a personal level. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mark?
Absolutely.
All right, at some point, we find that we have that will to change. For instance, it could be quitting smoking, etc. How do you interrupt the destructive patterns that we've been talking about here today, Mark?
Kurt, interrupts are very important. What we talk about in the book are what we call peak life habits versus these self-sabotage and limiting habits. And, first of all, you've actually got to start to be aware. When you have that New Year's resolution and you say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds this year, and yet what gets in the way every year is perfection, or I'm not worthy, or overwhelm, you have to say, okay, I've got to interrupt that habit. The first thing is to label the habit so that you can actually interrupt it.
Yeah.
So, and then, there's several ways to interrupt a habit. One thing is to start to recognize it and to choose different actions.
Right.
So, and that requires, this is really cognitive work. You must stay conscious.
Sure.
You've got to interrupt. If you have a habit, very popular one, Kurt, can't say no.
Right.
If you're saying yes to too many things, and therefore you're always frustrated, your life is going by, you're not happy, people around you aren't happy.
Yeah.
You've got to start practicing carefully saying no. And you also have to find out, well, where does can't say no come from?
Right.
Who did I learn this from? Why do I do it?
Right. Mark, my kids always say that's all I say is no. I mean, right? I mean, our kids will tell us that all the time. All right, so literally, do we have to change the path? All right, we're going down the path of life. We know that we need to change. We've got those personal firewalls there. Do we literally have to step off of one path, get onto another, if we're going to take that change? And in some cases, Mark, it could be a drastic change.
Well, Kurt, listen, that's the challenge of life. It was the challenge when God said to Moses, take your shoes off, and then you'll be standing on holy ground. And really, in the scripture interpretation, if you look at the Old Hebrew, God says to Moses, remove the locks from your habits and then take on your life.
Right.
So it does sometimes, now listen, you don't have to change your old beliefs. If you're really stuck in, something, about being a good person or being impatient, That's all right. The thing is that you must change your actions.
Right.
And that's the key. And listen, one of the best ways to change your actions is not just with that New Year's resolution to say, I'm going to start working out, or I'm going to find a different job, or I'm going to start a not-for-profit. The key is to schedule, to take the actions that are going to lead to a different outcome. Kurt, we must focus on the outcomes. What we want are outcomes.
Sure. All right. So how far do we go out and schedule? Because that's what it basically is, isn't it? It's scheduling the greatness for ourselves. How far do we go out and do it? Until it's done?
That's a good question. Now, little bites, little steps. People, let's take just cleaning the garage with all those boxes in there. People, you leave it there for years. The garage, whatever that metaphor of the garage is for you, whether it's getting to the right relationship.
Sure.
It's too big a project. People forget, okay, then just 10 minutes. If you haven't worked out in 5 years or 3 years or 1 year, then just get on a bike for 10 minutes. Stop thinking that it's got to be an hour and a half.
Yeah. Now, Mark, everyone's heard of the bucket list. Okay. Do we have a greatness list? Do we put one of those together? Huh?
Kurt, I'm not an advocate of lists, because lists are things that you're not doing.
Oh, it's writing a list is doing something, though, isn't it, Mark?
Well, the thing is, you're putting them somewhere. They're still not scheduled.
Should we put them on our BlackBerry then?
That's right. Listen, if you want a great relationship, and if you want to really make a difference in the world, if you want to help Habitat for Humanity, or you want to start your own not-for-profit, you've got to have courage to take action, to ask questions, to be willing to look foolish. So you've got to put your looking good habit aside.
Got it.
You've got to be patient, so you've got to put your impatient habit aside.
You got it.
If you have an I'm not great habit, you've got to put that aside and allow the world to see you. Just like athletes and great executives do. It's like they don't care about being in the spotlight. They do it because they're committed to doing it for themselves.
All right, nice, Mark. Now, Mark, if there was one thing in Habitually Great that really stands out for you, you want everyone to know about, what would it be, Mark?
Kurt, discipline comes before inspiration.
Right.
Stop waiting to be inspired. Decide what you want to do, who you want to become, and start taking action. Remember the discipline habit first. You'll be inspired by what you accomplish. Don't look for inspiration first.
And Mark, you may, in the process, inspire somebody else, right?
Absolutely. Listen, modeling is the best way to do it. If you want your kids to learn how to be great in the world, be great in your world. Take on yourself.
Nice. All right. Where can we find a copy of Habitually Great? Master your habits. Own your destiny today.
Habitually Great. Go right to Amazon.com. It's the easiest way. Go to Amazon.com. Order it. HabituallyGreat.com is our website. Also, you can just go right over there and learn more about us.
All right. All right. Head out today. Head out to the website. Head over to Amazon.com or your favorite local bookstore. Wherever fine books are sold, you can get a copy of Habitually Great. Mark, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Kurt. It's always a pleasure, and let's everybody just take on our own personal greatness and make a contribution to making this a better place to be.
I think it's a fantastic advice. Mark Weinstein, folks, is our guest today. Habitually Great is the name of the book. Get a copy today, Mark. Thanks once again. All right, there you have it, folks. Habitually Great. Master your habits. Own your destiny. Own your destiny. How important is that?